Steam and Sorcery, a transdimensional adventure starring Phineas Frakture and Sir Vlishginath, the Cleansing Light. Episode 5. Written by Joseph Gatch and Daniel Mitchell. Read by Fentriss O. Moore. Phineas suddenly sat on his horse as they rode along in search of the elusive sorcerer, Mystere. He hated horses, always had. Give him the thrum of machinery any day over a live animal, and he felt at home. All of this openness was stifling to him after being cooped up in his lab for months. He wondered why he was even doing this, other than to get his bomb back. It wasn't like he owed these people anything. His traveling companion suddenly slowed next to him on the beast that defied logic. One moment it wasn't there, and the next, it seemed to grow out of thin air. At least that is what it seemed at the time. It was some sort of mutation, that was for sure. An 8-legged horse was not natural. "May I ask you a question?" Vlishginath inquired with concern. Phineas just grunted assent, and the church knight continued. "You told Vogoth that you planned to kill yourself, but not yourself. What did you mean?" "I'm not sure if you'll be able to understand it. There are things in this universe that the people of this world won't comprehend for at least another 600 years, Phineas said dourly. "Humor me then. I'm afraid I don't have that long to wait," Vlishginath responded, smiling pleasantly and ignoring Phineas's disparaging remarks. Phineas sighed. "Well, we don't have much else to do except get saddle sores. Try to keep up. To understand my reasoning, you have to understand this. It has been thought that whenever you make a decision, you change the reality that you live in, for better, worse, or what have you. Say, for instance, that you have the choice of 2 women to take to the ball. In this reality, you ask Guinevere, end up marrying her, and live happily ever after. Good choice, right?" "Guinevere?" Vlishginath repeated warily. "But in another reality, you asked Morgan Le Fay, married her, and she nagged and nagged and nagged you until your dying day, making you miserable before turning you into a toad and smashing you beneath her heel. These 2 realities are happening at the same time, but in different dimensions, so to speak. Think of it like a book, each page being a reality, but side by side. Does this make any sense?" Vlishginath thought on it for a moment. "I think I understand what you're implying. The lore master might call it different, but having seen the things I've seen in my lifetime, your claims aren't all that far-fetched, really." "Good. Well, I come from one reality, one that is far more advanced than this world here. Where I come from, we have machines that fly and go faster than anything here. My device, which isn't working right now, allows me to move between these realities and see paths not taken, the what-ifs of life." "So, there's another version of you in Ascension." Phineas arched an eyebrow at the thought. "Somehow, I don't think so. This world is different in too many ways, that being the greatest," Phineas said, indicating the twin moons in the sky. "And there is the development of your society. It is far more primitive. In all of the worlds that I've visited, the technology has been fairly close to my own. I have to theorize that if this is a parallel world, then its history is skewed from my own back near the creation of the planet." "When the gods created the world," Vlishginath said, nodding in understanding. "Gods are a myth, as well as sorcery. The world was created through millions of years of cosmic change." Forcing a smile, Vlishginath tilted his head, bristling slightly in his tone. "I have stared into the abyss of Belphegor's mouth, Frakture, and stood at the side of the All-Father. The gods are very real, and I have seen them. Whether or not you believe in them makes them no less real. At the very least, I would ask that you refrain from such blasphemies in my presence." "Very well, but I speak my mind." "As do I." There was a long silence as the 2 men considered each other. Then, "Now how does all of this work into you wanting to kill yourself?" "Well," began Phineas, "I have found a world where I have become a pretty terrible person who does terrible things, so I want to stop him." "Why?" "Because he needs to be stopped," Phineas answered. "But why? What has this man done to you?" "Nothing, really. But he has destroyed others' lives, and will continue to do so." So it is the right thing to do, then? Vlishginath looked straight ahead, seemingly ending the conversation. You don't see it as such, prompted Phineas. Not entirely, I'm afraid. Should an adversary refuse to yield and force your hand is one thing, but to commit an act of murder without offering a chance to repent? It's not murder, it's what? It has to be done is all, Phineas said, his anger beginning to grow. Because you do not like what he chose to be. Because he is what I could become, snapped Phineas. Can we drop this already? But he is not you, continued Vlishginath, regardless. He has made the choices to become who he is, the same way that you made choices to become the man you are. The fact that you feel so strongly against what he is proves that you have the good in you to overcome the evil that is possibly there. The moment you make a compromise is the moment you lose yourself. It's not that easy when there is nothing left, Phineas said glumly. Friend, there is always something left. He looked upon Phineas, whose eyes were bright red from holding back tears. What is it? My whole world is gone, a barren wasteland of destruction. The mutations that we created to destroy our enemies have continued to destroy everything and have claimed the world as their own. Everyone I know, everyone I loved, is gone. As far as I know, I could be the only one left. I began building an engine, one that didn't run on the fuels that are no longer available, so that I could travel to find other survivors. And I ended up with this, he said, indicating the MRT on his belt. This has been my salvation from becoming totally insane, but it has only shown me more sorrow. Worlds where people are happy, but I cannot be included, because if I step away from the field that this generates, I will be back home in an instant. Why I am trapped here is beyond me, but you would be welcome here, Vlishginath finished. Phineas looked up at him, surprised. Maybe this is your blessing, your salvation, to live out your life here in peace. Or maybe that weird storm is to blame, Phineas said, switching his train of thought suddenly. Why didn't I think of it sooner? It started in my world, or did it really start here? Arthur, I might just open my mind to sorcery yet, though not likely. Excellent. You'll need an open mind when you come face to face with the madman himself. And my name is not Arthur. It's much easier on the tongue than Vlishginath, Phineas said with a slight smile. It sounds like a bad sneeze. Chuckling, Vlishginath spurred Aramis forward. I'd prefer a sneeze over a fracture any day. What is this? Phineas asked as the two pulled up to the small straw hut, seemingly in the middle of nowhere. This is the home of Mystere. Quaint, Phineas said, frowning upon the diminutive structure as he climbed down from his horse. Where do the other two pigs live? Grinning, Vlishginath whispered into Aramis's ear, the silver 8-legged steed nodding and wandering off, corralling the sullen roan Phineas had been riding along with it. Phineas seemed not to notice, nor care, instead focusing his attention on the hut itself. Looking to be scarcely large enough to house a single chair, and with a low enough roof that the sole occupant would be forced to sit in it, the hut itself looked wholly unremarkable save for the crooked, misshapen M carved into the front of the door. Stepping up to the door, Vlishginath knocked thrice. Phineas looked around him in disbelief. This is a joke, right? Turning his head, Vlishginath quirked a brow at Phineas as the plain-looking wooden door clicked open. Vlishginath reached out and held it for the professor. Stay close, and if you spot any danger, call it out, Vlishginath said, taking on a serious tone and expression. Letting out a single bemused chortle, Phineas stepped up to the door, shaking his head. Right, of course. We're all going to fit in here, are we? Phineas said, giving Vlishginath a reprimanding shake of his head as he ducked through the doorway. It was then, at that precise moment, that Phineas Frakture encountered his first irrefutable proof that sorcery was in fact quite real, quite contrary to what he had built up in his mind as solid scientific fact. Stepping through behind him, Vlishginath pulled the door shut as he entered, coming to stand next to Phineas and looking upon Mystere's labyrinth, though the church knight's reaction was considerably different. With a resigned sigh, Vlishginath pulled out his helmet, glancing over to Phineas as he spoke. It's a game to him, so the more we amuse him, the better of a chance we have that he'll, are you all right, Frakture? staring unblinkingly at the dizzyingly massive space with the sky so bright with stars that it lit up the room they stood in, a room without walls. Phineas stood with his mouth hanging open and shook his head.